Welcome to our Hong Kong Brief program. In today's news, Kirin Holdings has successfully taken control of the supplement maker Fancl, marking a significant step in its shift towards the healthcare sector. Despite facing competition from MY Alpha Management, Kirin's new president remains confident that this acquisition is the best path forward for both companies. Financial regulations have extended the tender offer deadline to September 11, but Kirin is standing firm in its proposal. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's stock market is feeling the heat as the Hang Seng Index hits a one-week low, primarily due to disappointing earnings reports from major electric vehicle manufacturers like Li Auto and BYD. Li Auto shares plummeted by 14% after a tough second quarter, while Nvidia's poor sales guidance has also dampened tech stocks. However, not all news is bleak. Meituan's stock surged by 8.7% following strong quarterly earnings. Lastly, Australia's decision to cap foreign student enrollments at 270,000 for 2025 could spell trouble for Chinese students seeking education there. This move may prompt many to look for opportunities in the UK, Singapore, or Hong Kong instead. Education consultants are advising students to apply early and choose universities wisely, as stricter admission standards may be on the horizon. Please stay tuned for more detailed coverage. Japan Times reports that Kirin Holdings has successfully acquired a significant share of the supplement company Fancl, marking a pivotal move in its transition from a traditional beer maker to a health-focused enterprise. Takashi Minakata, the newly appointed president, expressed confidence in the acquisition despite facing competition from an overseas fund that raised its stake in Fancl. Minakata acknowledged the slight delay in finalizing the deal due to financial regulations, but reassured stakeholders that Kirin remains committed to its offer and believes that their partnership will benefit Fancl immensely. South China Morning Post highlights a downturn in Hong Kong's stock market, attributed to disappointing earnings from major electric vehicle manufacturers like Li Auto and BYD, raising concerns about shrinking profit margins in the sector. The Hang Seng Index fell to its lowest in a week, with significant drops in shares of Li Auto and BYD, as well as a negative impact from Nvidia's lower-than-expected sales guidance. While the overall market sentiment was bleak, Meituan's impressive profit growth provided a glimmer of hope, and Chengdu US Optical Communications saw a remarkable 136% surge on its debut, showcasing the mixed fortunes within the market. South China Morning Post also discusses the potential decline in Australia's attractiveness as a study destination for Chinese students following the government's decision to cap foreign student numbers. This move could significantly affect Australia's international education sector, valued at $48 billion Australian dollars. Analysts warn that limiting new enrollments will not only impact educational institutions but also the broader economy, including housing and tourism. Many Chinese families are now reconsidering their plans, with some opting for universities in the UK and other countries instead. Education experts and consultants express concern over the sudden policy changes, which complicate the decision-making process for families seeking overseas education opportunities. South China Morning Post reports on DBS Bank Hong Kong's innovative approach to transforming traditional workspaces into dynamic environments that cater to the evolving needs of its workforce. Since 2020, the bank's corporate real estate strategy and administration team has been renovating its office spaces at One Island East to create a culture of collaboration and well-being. Connie Liu, the head of the team, emphasizes the importance of a happy workplace for both employees and employers. The newly designed Joy Space incorporates open areas, wellness corners, and a learning center that fosters continuous growth and creativity. Initiatives like beach cleanups and workshops not only promote sustainability but also build a sense of community among employees, reflecting DBS's commitment to a people-first philosophy. South China Morning Post also highlights the potential challenges Hong Kong students may face in gaining admission to Australian universities due to a proposed cap on international student enrollments. Education consultants suggest that as Australia seeks to manage a surge in migration and improve educational quality, the admission standards for popular universities, particularly in metropolitan areas, could become more stringent. The cap would limit new enrollments to 270,000 across various educational institutions, leading to concerns among parents and students about the impact on accessibility. Despite this, experts believe that the overall effect on Hong Kong students may be limited, as they have a wider selection of universities in Australia compared to other regions. They advise students to apply early and choose universities based on specific subject rankings to increase their chances of acceptance. South China Morning Post reports on the optimistic outlook for Hong Kong's IPO market, as indicated by Citigroup's insights on investor confidence and a robust pipeline of listing candidates. Following a significant downturn after the Ant Group's IPO was halted in 2020, the market is showing signs of recovery, bolstered by improvements in the U.S. IPO landscape and stability in China's economic indicators. James Fleming, Citigroup's global co-head of equity capital markets, notes that the rise in convertible bond sales by Chinese companies signals a willingness among investors to engage with potential stock upsides, which serves as a positive precursor for IPO activity. With many Chinese companies seeking to list in the U.S. and ongoing efforts to address valuation disparities, there is a sense of cautious optimism that the IPO market will rebound, reflecting a broader cyclical recovery in the region. South China Morning Post reports on the thrilling arrival of a group of 65 medal-winning Chinese Olympians in Hong Kong for a 3-day visit filled with fanfare and public engagement. Among the stars are 17-year-old diving sensation Quan Hongchan, who captured gold at the Tokyo Olympics and made waves with her stunning performances in Paris, and Pan Zhanle, a record-breaking swimmer who shattered the world record in the 100-meter freestyle. The excitement peaks with a sold-out gala show where residents can witness these athletes showcase their skills at Queen Elizabeth Stadium. The visit not only celebrates their achievements but also allows fans to connect with their heroes, making it a memorable occasion for both athletes and spectators. South China Morning Post also highlights the implications of South Korea's new pilot project to recruit foreign domestic workers, particularly focusing on the guaranteed minimum wages that could make such help unaffordable for many families. The project aims to address the country's severe labor shortages in the care sector, exacerbated by the lowest birth rate globally. Critics argue that simply bringing in foreign workers won't solve the underlying issues of low wages and poor working conditions that plague the domestic care industry. The minimum wage for these Filipino workers could reach over 2 million won per month, significantly higher than what domestic helpers earn in Hong Kong or Singapore, raising concerns about accessibility for average households. Lawmakers and experts emphasize the necessity for systemic improvements in local care services rather than relying solely on foreign labor. Al Jazeera covers the pivotal sedition trial of 2 former editors from Stand News, Chung Pui-kun and Patrick Lam, which could set a precedent for the future of journalism in Hong Kong. Their trial raises critical questions about the boundaries of legitimate reporting versus inciting hatred against the government under the revived colonial-era sedition laws. With the backdrop of a media landscape increasingly stifled by national security laws, the outcome of this trial is expected to reflect the government's stance on press freedom. The trial has garnered international attention, particularly as Stand News was one of the last remaining independent media outlets before its abrupt closure in 2021. As the verdict looms, observers fear it may further erode the already fragile state of journalism in Hong Kong, where independent voices are being systematically silenced. South China Morning Post reports on a controversial ruling by the Ohio Supreme Court that has redefined the concept of boneless in the context of chicken wings. The case arose when a diner found a chicken bone in his order of boneless wings, leading to severe health complications and a lawsuit against the restaurant. Despite his claims of negligence, the courts ruled against him, stating that consumers should expect the possibility of bone fragments in such dishes. This decision raises questions about food safety and consumer rights, especially for those with dietary restrictions or allergies. The author reflects on their own experiences with unexpected items in food and speculates on the broader implications of the ruling for future lawsuits. In another opinion piece from the South China Morning Post, the alarming rise of online scams in Hong Kong is highlighted, particularly those targeting users of popular mainland Chinese super apps like WeChat and Taobao. With nearly 585 million Hong Kong dollars stolen in just the first half of 2024, the article underscores the vulnerability of consumers to fraudsters impersonating customer service representatives. Despite police efforts to combat these scams, including over 100 arrests, the overall trend of phone scams continues to escalate. The author calls for stronger legislative measures and collaboration between banks and digital platforms to protect consumers, drawing comparisons to successful anti-scam initiatives in other countries. The South China Morning Post also advocates for greater support for the Paralympics, which recently commenced in Paris. The event features 4,400 athletes competing across various sports, showcasing the incredible abilities of individuals with disabilities. The article emphasizes the need for increased visibility and sponsorship for the Paralympics, which often takes a back seat to the Olympics. It highlights the historical significance of the Games and their role in promoting inclusivity and accessibility. With Hong Kong sending a team of 23 athletes, the piece encourages the community to rally behind them, acknowledging the dedication and resilience of disabled athletes who exemplify the Olympic spirit. South China Morning Post reports on Tony Bui, the filmmaker behind the acclaimed film 3 Seasons, as he reflects on the evolution of Vietnam and his upcoming project centered around the iconic Napalm Girl photograph. Bui shares his experience navigating the bustling streets of Beijing, where he faced challenges due to the language barrier and chaotic weather. Despite the setbacks, he successfully moderated a panel in Hong Kong and is thrilled about the renewed interest in 3 Seasons, which has recently been restored to high definition. The film, which explores Vietnam's transformation post-American ties, highlights the rapid changes in Saigon, now filled with modern billboards and influences from various cultures. Bui's next film aims to delve into the untold story behind the famous photograph, capturing the aftermath of that fateful day. In another article, the South China Morning Post covers the successful listing of Black Spade Acquisition 2, a special-purpose acquisition company, SPAC, backed by Melco Resorts and Entertainment's chairman, Lawrence Ho. The SPAC raised $150 million on Nasdaq, with plans to explore investment opportunities in the entertainment, lifestyle, and technology sectors, particularly in artificial intelligence. This marks the second SPAC from Ho's family office, following the earlier Black Spade acquisition, which completed a significant merger with VinFast Auto, an electric vehicle manufacturer. Ho's ambition extends beyond gaming, as he aims to transform Macau's casino-centric economy into a broader hospitality and entertainment industry. Lastly, the South China Morning Post sheds light on the private marriage of former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer and real estate mogul Roxana Girond, who quietly tied the knot in 2020. Their relationship has been under scrutiny due to Spitzer's tumultuous past, marked by scandals involving high-profile affairs and legal troubles. Despite this, Girond has stood by him, and the couple managed to keep their wedding under wraps until recently. Girond, a successful entrepreneur and advocate for women's empowerment in real estate, focuses on supporting female professionals in the industry. The couple has also made headlines for their luxury real estate investments, showcasing their commitment to building a life together amidst Spitzer's controversial history. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Like a river, stocks to rise and sometimes shiver. Economy goes up and down. In this game, we wear the crown. Startups popping like the news. Crypto fashion.